When we knew that we were going to be a Healthy Church Initiative congregation and we were moving forward, one of the first things we knew was a priority was to get a prayer team going. And so that meant I needed to take time to be in a lot of prayer and think about who in the congregation seems to exhibit that gift for a real prayerful attitude. And of course, everybody comes to mind, but I really thought about some folks in particular that had demonstrated in the past not only a prayerful attitude in the way that they approached worship, but in the Healthy Church Initiative process itself.
I got a letter from Pastor Scott and prayed, and I just felt the yearning. This was where yes, I want to do this.
I believe from the very beginning, when Pastor Scott asked me, I just came out of the lay leaders development program, and I'm the lay leader of the church, and he asked me if I would take on one responsibilities of one of the teams, either leadership or prayer, and I decided that prayer would be very good. The main thing that's helped me is prayer has become more of in my daily life now.
It just seemed like that was a good place for me to be able to serve.
I really wanted folks who were committed to prayer, that would bring on an attitude of discipline when it came to prayer and would be open to God's guidance. Often when we pray, even clergy are guilty of this, we ask God for what we want rather than what we need. And so I really wanted folks to understand there's a difference between want and need. And so our prayer time has been very much focused on the needs of our congregation, the needs of our community as we enter the Healthy Church process. And the team members that eventually ended up on the team took that very seriously in their role to really pray for the needs of the church, the community, and even the team itself.
And we'd come in on a Thursday evening, and we had the covenant that we read. We'd have silent prayer. We had the leaders, and we named them, like the fire department, the fire chief, the police, the city hall, going through all those so that it wasn't just the church.
Of course, there were some resources and tools given to us by the HCI team that helped to begin our prayer time together. So when we gathered, we used the church parlor, and we would meet in the evening and just really walk through the criteria that was given us to pray for our community, to pray for the Healthy Church Initiative, and to pray for our congregation. I think the prayer team helped the Healthy Church Initiative process by getting the congregation prepared spiritually and to invite them into a time of corporate prayer. They knew that the prayer team was spending a lot of time praying for the congregation, praying for the needs of the community, and praying for the Healthy Church Initiative process. And we were continually inviting the church, both in times of worship and in times of fellowship, to join in that corporate prayer. So initially what began as a prayer team meeting every week for a time of prayer in the evening began to develop into prayer opportunities for our congregation to be in prayer as well.
And Pastor Scott said, you can have a little space there in the sanctuary. We felt that was too big. We kept looking around. He said classroom or something, and one evening there was just 3 of us sitting there, and it was like the light came on over all of us. We've got a chapel over there. Let's look at it. So we came running in here, and they've been using it as a classroom. And oh gosh, if we could just have this. Look at this. We cleaned it up, helped them move things, got it ready, and set up the journey of their history of the church. It was received so well. We asked if we could do it for the following weekend, and they let us. Then we asked if we could make a permanent change, and we got it. So then the process of moving furniture more around, and it's just been, as we go along, something has come up within the church or within the community, and we create a station.
It was really important, I think, for the congregation to understand that this was more than just about our church. And the prayer stations were for HCI, for the Healthy Church. They were for the community, and then they were for our church. So it was for the Healthy Church process and the changes that might or might not come. as well as who we are as a congregation, and then to expanding out into the community.
So we did set up mainly, we just had really the station where we set up for the consultation. We prayed for the consultation team. And then from there we went to try to expand into other areas that we needed to concentrate on, where the people could become involved. And such as we're looking here at when the kids go to camp, we set up a station for them. We set a station set up for the teams that would go out into the communities and help. We had them by name, and we would have a separate prayers for them.
There are times when we have put the actual prayers in the station, but there's other times when we've kind of put a guide, a piece in there to guide them in there, to think about in their prayers. So that's what we did in that one. The community one, we got, we had the school board, we had the government officials, the fire and police, emergency personnel, and we had that listed, and we had a poster in that center of kind of a collage of the community, the courthouse, the police department building, some of the other buildings. So we had that visual with it, as well as all of these names of people that they could pray for as a group, for instance, the emergency personnel, or they could pray individually. And then for our church, it was the discerning, for the church to have the wisdom and being open-minded to be able to discern where we are supposed to go and who we are supposed to be as God's people.
And the congregation responded. They were glad to see it was back as a chapel. And when they saw what we had done in setting up the stations and the softness, more people came on board. And as we'd see people in the hallway, have you been to the chapel? In the groups, the Bible study classes, have you gone by the chapel? I think the excitement that we had for it, we tried to convey that to others. Go in and see the chapel. Stop in and pray. It was just good.
It just keeps coming. The needs just keep coming. And so we have done some of the prayer stations that have been seasonal. Some of them have been defined needs, such as Joplin, and then I think Scott mentioned that we had this tragic situation in our community. And the night that we had a counselor here, he offered the prayer chapel for those that had come that night, and they did.
We get excited about setting up a new station. What can we do to convey the idea? The Joplin, we were also moved with it, but you know, not just put a sign up, this is Joplin. You can see over there, it's got a little bit of the pictures and things to let people pulling it together. This is for real.
There's some things that I think are really important. We bought lamps to define the stations. So the people immediately knew when they walked into the darkened room where the stations were. We bought the electric candles for safety. We have the sound machine for just a little bit of background. We found that worked better than trying to keep the CDs going with music. We found that we needed lots and lots of easels, picture easels, to be able to name the centers and have that clear. We basically kind of scavenged around to get the plants and the coverings and candle trays and things like that. So we haven't spent a lot of money. We have a wonderful. We have two women that are wonderful with our altar, and they have brought some things and they're willing to share.
But the sound effects of we want music we had at one time in here. We had the waterfall sound. We've had the chirping birds, something to give a relaxing, peaceful atmosphere. And since the wall closes off and the lights are dim usually, it's very peaceful.
The chapel is open anytime that the office is open. And of course, Sunday morning, we do leave this open, and Pastor Scott invites people to come in after service, and people do come in after service, so it's readily accessible.
Well, one of the things, as you know, is that we have an aging congregation, and it's not always wise or convenient for them to get out at certain times. And so we gave the congregation several options, how they could, you know, pray in their home, but they did have times that they were to be praying, and they could come up here and they could come into the prayer station, what we had set up in here, or they could go into the sanctuary when the church was open, or they were invited to pray at home. And so by doing that, we felt like we offered enough variety that everybody could feel involved. And there's something about this congregation that easily embraces prayer. There are some other things, areas where they're not as open to, but prayer is something that they easily embrace. And when they're invited to pray, they respond.
I think our prayer team has had a success in its goal to be a prayer team that leads the church through the HCI process through prayer, because they've been willing to open themselves up to the process of where God is leading us. Originally we were given some criteria to use, and we quickly grew beyond that, beyond just naming folks in prayer and seeing a greater vision that God had for us, and praying in particular for that vision and for God to lead us on that vision. And little by little, as people knew that we were praying for this and they became interested, and by people I mean in the congregation, they were able to catch on the spirit of what was happening with the prayer team, and we're able to embrace that vision as well.
You know, one of the things that you think you're doing is you're praying for others, but the change really comes in self. I've seen the power of prayer, what it has done, how it has smoothed the way for this whole process. There are still questions, and there are still those that might not fully agree with things, but it is absolutely amazing how God has gone before us, and I really feel like that is not just the prayer team, but that it is a praying church. It just is.
I really feel that was a major contribution to it. It kind of started out with just a prayer team, but as we expanded out and got more people involved, and more people praying for the success of the program, I think that had a major impact on the reason it's still going forth. But the prayer team, not itself, but the way it's expanded into the whole congregation.
I think one of the most important elements for a church as they begin the Healthy Church Initiative process is don't wait for the process itself to begin before you pray. Prayer comes as a way to really lay the groundwork, the foundation, spiritual groundwork for what comes ahead. We were able to come together and pray and pray and pray, both in church gatherings, during our council meetings, through our team meetings, on Sunday morning in worship, and then during our prayer times, to really put ourselves into God's hands and to trust God that He was leading us in this process all along. So to say that you have a prayer team and their intention is just to pray for something specific, we went well beyond that boundary and really began to be a people that prayed for how God was leading us as a church, how God was leading us into the community, and even beyond.